Burns Night, the 25th of January, marks the day that Robert Burns was born, and for the last couple of hundred years, celebration suppers have been held here in Scotland and indeed right across the world. So Burns's poetry and songs have been enjoyed here for centuries thanks to the enduring connections between Ulster and Scotland. Ayrshire, his home county, is visible from Ulster on a clear day, if you're lucky that is. And if you're planning a visit to the Linen Hall Library in Belfast, they have the biggest collection of his works outside of Scotland. So today I'm preparing a traditional Burns Night supper for you to make and enjoy at home. So 25th of January is the day that we celebrate Robbie Burns' life, and we celebrate his poetry, and it's a great time for us to get together, have a Burns supper, and traditionally we'd have our haggis, we'd have our neeps and tatties, or turnip and potatoes, and we'd toast them with a wee dram or a wee glass of scotch or Irish whiskey, whatever you want. But it's a good time to get together and celebrate. So the first thing we'll do is do the haggis. So I get the haggis from a local butcher here, and actually in Port Stewart. So haggis is pretty much, traditionally it would have been pluck, which would have been the innards of the lamb. So this was very much a peasant dish. So it was all the leftover intestines. So you'd have in Burns' address to the haggis, he makes reference to planch, which would have been the stomach, to tripe, which we know about, and thame, which is intestines. So it would have all been boiled up and minced up with oats and spices, or you go to your butcher and he does it all for you. And it would be put into an ox bung, which would have been the intestines of the ox. So this is mainly just, don't put the lungs or anything into it anymore, and there's a wee bit of pork and it's lamb, and it's a secret family recipe apparently. So what we're going to do is just take a pot, and this is already, I have to remember this is already cooked, so this has been steamed, so we're just going to bring it back up. So an onion, and just slice the onion, so we're going to make this this will be used as a base of the sauce. So that just goes into the pot here. And then I've just got a wee bit of stock here. You can use a stock cube, but this is just a freshly made stock. That goes in. A wee bit of thyme. Unfortunately not wild mountain thyme, but anyway, and our haggis. So that all goes in. Okay, lid on the top. And then just that's just going to steam, bring that up to boil, and then the juices will come out of it and we'll make a nice sauce. So that I'm going to set this aside to steam probably for about 30 minutes. Now what we'll do is we'll get our vegetables done. So neeps and tatties, very traditional. Turnip, a really big Ulster-Scots vegetable. So I've got a big Ulster-Scots vegetable here. So this is our turnip, our neeps, grown locally here, so still got the local soil. So what I did was I peeled the turnip, I just quartered it, makes it easier to work with. And what we'll do is just cut that up into nice chunks. And if you cook the turnip and the potatoes separately, because sometimes the turnip and the potatoes do cook at the same time, but they're completely different vegetables. So if you cook them separately, you won't end up with what you could end up with: hard turnips and mushy spuds. So we want them all to, definitely want them to be an integral part of each other. So so that's our neeps bit there. And that just into a saucepan. And we'll put that on to heat, and nice bit of salt in there, and that'll go on to let them on to boil. And our spuds, and again I've just used local spuds here. These are actually rooster potatoes, but they're grown quite close by, so just I want to get a nice wee dice of them. And the thing about these spuds is we're not doing a fancy puree or anything when these are finished. We're going to just mash them up together. But what you want to have, that you can actually see the potatoes and you can see the turnips, and then they sort of come together. That's us onto the heat, and we'll come back in half an hour and bring it all together. So the neeps and tatties, or the turnips and potatoes, are all ready. So we're going to do mash them up for actual neeps and tatties. But the other thing I want to do is rumbledethumps. So rumbledethumps are pretty much neeps and tatties fried up with a bit of, I'm going to put leek, you could put onion in it, wee bit of cabbage, or I'm going to do like a cavallo nero, it's like a kale. Fry that up in butter, fry it all up. I'm going to put a wee bit of black pepper in that and salt. Put it into a dish, bit of cheese on top, and bake it. So it's just two different things to do. So the first thing, the leek. So what I did was I split the leek and washed it. So we're going to chop that up, but then I'm going to put a bit of butter into a pan here. So a nice big frying pan. Get a nice bit of butter in that, and then we'll put our leeks in first. So use all of the leeks, just a lot of people just use the white, but the leeks, the green's fantastic. So just chop that up. And that goes into your pan. Let that cook down. And then when you're doing that there, if you add just a small bit of salt into your leeks, it just helps them break down a wee bit. And then some of this here, so it's just use kale, cabbage. This is a type of kale. So take it, what we're going to do, because we're just going to cook this down quite quickly. So we'll get the leeks down there. Because they're cooked up quite small, they're nearly done. And then with our cabbage, just sort of shred it. Give this a good wash beforehand, and then just shred that down. Nice and small, because the less you can cook it, the better. So if you cook it down like that, it's great. And that goes in on top of our leeks. Another wee bit of salt on top of that. Give that a mix round. Right, so we've got our spuds are ready, our turnips are ready. So what I'll do first of all is to take a wee bit of butter into our turnips or neeps. Black pepper, you used ordinary cracked black pepper. This is a smoked black pepper from up around this part of the world, and it's smoked by a guy called Rory, who originally comes from Islay. Which is just about 16 miles that way, wee island. So just mash those, and again we're not looking for any fancy purees here, we're just looking to, that's it. Same with the spuds, another bit of butter. You could leave the butter out as well if you want to, but there would be absolutely no crack at all if you left it out, so just keep it in, definitely. All right, so that's that. This is, so that, you can smell, if you smell that now, it's just this lovely buttery leeks, and we've got our cabbage there as well, which is great. And what we'll do is just take some of the neeps, or the turnips, some of the spuds, give that a really good mix round. So rumbledethumps, I like to think it's just me, you know, you just thump everything and rumble it all together. I just think it's a brilliant name. And as well as being a brilliant name, that they actually taste really lovely, especially what I'm going to do to this now. So at this stage that could be rumbledethumps there, so that's your rumbledethumps. So again, just a great Ulster-Scots word. It just means, I like to think it's just like you rumble them together and you thump them before, so that's it. Into the pan, or just into a nice baking dish here. And this is a recipe that I've seen a few times it's been done where, I mean, you can just have, this is technically what we have here is rumbledethumps. I've seen a few Scottish people doing this, which is really nice, so just a wee bit of grated cheese. And then what we're going to do is just fire that into the oven. So a nice hot oven, and we just want to get that until, because the turnips and everything are nice and hot at this stage, we're just really looking to melt the cheese on top of that. So for the neeps and tatties, or the potatoes and turnips, just I'm going to mix these together. And we've got a wee bit of butter and everything in with that, and we've got our nice cracked smoked black pepper, which the smoked black pepper works really well with the sort of the sweetness of the turnip. Put it into a bowl here. So this is. Now I know we put a wee bit of butter in that before, but you have to remember this is a celebration night. This is, you know, we've finished with Christmas, month down the road, getting a wee bit fed up. So in order to celebrate Robbie Burns a wee bit more, just take another wee bit of butter. There we are, and we'll just poke that in there, and that's our neeps and tatties there. So that's that bit done. We're waiting for our rumbledethumps in the oven, and when we're waiting for that, we're just going to finish off our haggis. So the haggis is done now. It took about 30 minutes, because remember we're just reheating it, so you're kind of steaming it there with all that lovely stock. So I'm going to make a sauce with this now. So I've got our wee pan on here again. So I've got a bit of thyme. I'll take my haggis out first of all. And then I've got a wee bit of thyme in here. I'll just take that out. So we've got our juices, lovely juices here. So this was onion, a bit of thyme. We've got our stock, nice bit of stock in that. Got it on the heat here, and I'm just going to finish that off with just a wee toot of whiskey, not a massive amount, just a wee drop, and we don't want a big, thick, heavy sauce, because you just remember this has got, what smell of that? Oh, just that, that's lovely. You know when you get that, now if you just do that with a pot of water and some stock, that's to never worry about the haggis. Just get that lovely smell of whiskey. It's beautiful and spicy. So I'm going to let that cook down for a wee second there, and then what we'll do is we're going to blend that. Now you don't need to, you know, when you have something like this natural, the onion will naturally thicken this, so you don't need to add flour or anything like that. It's just, and you're getting up those lovely, all the spices that come out of the haggis mixed with the kind of spiciness of the whiskey as well is lovely. Right. So I think that's perfect now, and then we're just going to pour that into a wee jug, and we're just going to give this a blitz. So just blend this together. And then just put this into a jug. So haggis is ready. Just going to cut into it now. Just cut off the wee end there. Now we'll just take a knife and just sort of split it up that way. Take off that wee. So there's just a line in here. So it's So this is synthetic one, where it would have been an ox bung or an ox lining. So we've just got this one instead, and I would just take a nice slice of the haggis. We crumble it. Maybe cut that in half actually. There we are. But it smells lovely actually, it smells really good. So you just sort of, if you like stuffing or you like sausage, you like haggis, you know, so. So that's that, and then we'll see, have a wee look at our rumbledethumps. They smell good. There's our rumbledethumps already. And we've got our neeps and tatties there. And we'll take a wee bit of our sauce, maybe put a wee bit of just put a wee bit of greenery on it there, just to, nice bit of parsley. And then if we just take our, just take that nice sauce. So this was just the juice that came out of the haggis. Plus there was a wee bit of thyme in that, onion, a wee bit of our whiskey, and that was just blended, a wee bit of stock and just blended up. So just pour that over. There you are, and that's our burn supper, ready in pretty much half an hour. So you've got our neeps and tatties, our rumbledethumps, and of course star of the show, which is the haggis with the whiskey sauce. So all we have to do now is toast the haggis, and normally you'd address the haggis, and the poem is about 6 or 7 verses, but we're just going to take the first or take one line off it, or 2 lines, and that's "For fair, ye honest sonsy face, great chieftain of the puddin' race." Cheers. So I'm going to do a very traditional dessert that would be served on Burns night, and that's raspberry cranachan. And raspberry cranachan is very, very simple. It's whipped cream with honey, whiskey and raspberries, and then some toasted oats. So I'm taking it to another bit of a different level, and maybe an Ulster-Scots level. So I'm going to do flake meal biscuits as the oat side of it. So nice wee crunchy oaty biscuits, and then we'll layer that up with actual cranachan and serve it with some fresh raspberries as well. So flake meal biscuits, very traditional, great Ulster-Scots. We share oats, and this is a recipe that's been around for generations. So in here I've got just butter and sugar that I've whipped really quite well until it's, when you're making a biscuit or shortcake or anything, make sure your butter and sugar's nearly white. So whenever I've whipped that already. And then just some oats as well. So just, and they really just a nice, you're putting quite a good bit of oats into that. And then plain flour. A pinch of baking soda, just a nice pinch of that. And then we'll just mix this around. So it's like nearly like a cookie, but it's nice, really, you get a really lovely crisp biscuit with this. I love these, especially when they come straight out of the oven, they're fantastic. So just want to give that a really good mix around. The more you beat your butter and sugar at the beginning, the easier it is to mix this up. Right, so just bring that all together. Then a bit of flour just onto your surface here. Not too much, because you want to sort of have it all that it's. Put too much flour when you're making pastry, that's where you end up with tough things. Okay, so just bring that together. Lightly flour your rolling pin, and then we'll just move this, keep moving it around. Sort of bringing it together. Now we'll just cut these out. And don't take too long to cook these, but we need to just cook them and then cool them down a wee bit. Okay, there we are. So that's about 170-degree oven, and that just goes in. They'll probably take about 15 minutes roughly. So the flake meal biscuits come out of the oven and they're cold now, which is important because we're going to sandwich them. So if they're hot, your cream's going to go everywhere. So for the cranachan part of it, so we've got the oats there, so we'll take that out of the mix. So we've got whipped double cream, and as you can see, it's quite thick. Now that's quite important because we're going to put in whiskey at one. So put a wee dash of whiskey, okay? So, and then when you've done your wee dash, just another wee bit for luck, okay? So that's the measurements. And then we've got honey. So this is just a nice honey from the north coast, but there's loads of beautiful honeys around Northern Ireland. And we don't want this overly sweet, because don't forget your biscuits are nice and sweet. So there we are. So ordinarily I would lick that spoon, but I'm not going to now because I want to be polite. Give that a mix together again. And you sort of see that there, it kind of loosens it a bit, so it's important that you get it nice and nicely thickly whipped. And then these are just frozen raspberries. Frozen raspberries are great actually. I've got fresh there, but frozen raspberries are, I would use them a lot anyway. They're picked at the height of the season in the summer, so see, they're lovely. That's very traditional raspberries in Scotland, really traditional fruit. So mix that in. What isn't traditional that I'm going to put it in because I love it is just a tiny wee bit of vanilla. So just you can make the cranachan and then you can just put that into a glass or into a bowl and put on some toasted oats, and that's perfect. But we're going to just take it to a different level here. So I've got the biscuits. So what I do is, so these are cold, as you can see now why they have to be cold, and just take a nice scoop of our cranachan mixture. Another wee scoop. Smooth that off a wee bit, it's like a kind of a slider. And then we'll just get our raspberries here, a couple of wee raspberries, just on top. These are fresh raspberries. You don't have to do this, they're fine as they are, but just think it's a nice contrast. And then just a wee bit of icing sugar. Just a wee icing sugar onto our, that's our raspberry cranachan with the cream, the whiskey, the honey, wee bit of vanilla, and then all sandwiched between the wee flake meal biscuits with the oats. So that's me done now. So I hope you enjoy your haggis, your neeps and tatties, and your raspberry cranachan. Happy Burns Night.